a midlife crisis, or am I just lazy? Recently, I have been reflecting on a situation in my career as a video editor that I'm hoping some of you can relate to, whether you are past this point or maybe you are getting up to this point, maybe you are at the exact point. It's something that a lot of us may end up coming across. And that is essentially evolving from what you're doing, the work of video editing, and then evolving out of that. For the past 6 months, maybe even more, I have been wanting an assistant for video editing work for my one client. Been on my wish list to get some help because there's a lot of video editing work that's needed. And recently that was granted to me and I did get an assistant, and that was really awesome. Naturally, all of that video editing work, at least the majority of it, now needs to be outsourced from me to the assistant, which again is great. That's what I wanted. Part of the reasoning for that was that we are trying to scale video as well as other things that are sort of video adjacent. There's a lot of things on my plate that maybe aren't video editing specific that I need to learn to do or do more of for that particular client. And so this allows me the time to then do those things. But what if you don't want to do those things? This is not the first time that I've dealt with the repercussions of outsourcing your video editing or getting video editing help so that you can then do different or more complicated or more challenging things or just other things. My channel, this channel that you are watching, I have an assistant for that. I hired him specifically because I came to the point where I had this channel and I had some other client work that I knew that I was going to be needing help with if I wanted to be able to maintain the amount of clients that I was having. And so for a long time, I have been working with an assistant, and that's great. It's exactly what I wanted. That is really great for me because then there are some things that I can focus on and make more of my strengths, like writing and prepping videos and managing files and things like that, without the actual work of video editing bogging me down time-wise. And so in a lot of ways, having an assistant, whether it be for this stuff over here or for this new client over here, it is opening me up to a lot of freedom, even just in mental clarity of the amount of time that I can dedicate to that client can now go towards other things that I didn't then have before. However, I can't help but have the thought cross my mind of that I am not a video editor anymore. And of course that's not true because I do still edit video. And for some clients, I don't even have help with that work. I just do that all by myself. So I am still absolutely a video editor. I know that, but I still can't help but think that 5 years from now, I may not be doing any video editing at all because of just the way that some of my client work has been kind of moving into. What if I do become a fully managerial supervisor role, not doing any video editing at all? What does that mean for me? Do I like the sound of that? Is that scary? Kind of both for me, to be honest. Like I said before, there are a lot of things that I like beyond just video editing when it comes to work. I am a really organized person. I like to plan things. I like to manage things from sort of a larger, like, bird's eye view. But there are a lot of things that are very challenging for me. And I do find that in the day-to-day, currently, now, in this day present, I am struggling with all of the non-video editing tasks that are coming my way. Because I have so much help on the video editing front, I'm left with all the other tasks that need to be done that only I can do. But then I find myself wanting to just kind of ignore those tasks and then just go back to the video editing tasks. And I think that is the whole point of this video, is that I am having trouble moving myself into that more evolved position. Because it's not just a matter of taking on a new position with a client. It's taking on a new mindset about how you approach your day-to-day, how you approach all of your workflows. And maybe this is why I have never gone fully into that more agency kind of mode where people do some video editing and then they learn that they like running a business. And so they hire a bunch of video editors, they take on a bunch of work, they work on their branding, and they become a media agency, and they just take in all this work and they outsource it to everyone. I always had a real problem with that because in that you're totally losing the genuine on the ground video editing, which I find very rewarding. You're losing all of that. You know, you're not a video editor anymore. You're now a business person. Maybe you were a business person all along that just learned video editing for the sake of of having a business, what have you. It's interesting thinking about that, of that's the reason why I probably haven't gone into that area and why I'm having some trouble moving into this next sort of step in my life. Now, I know I'm doing a lot of rambling. This is very much a think piece, if you will. But something else that has really come to mind of the center around this whole problem that I'm having, while I keep reverting back to wanting to do video editing, a question comes up from that, which is why? And a lot of it is because I absolutely do use video editing as a crutch, because it's very easy for me to do. If I've been doing the same work over and over again for a long time for a client, when they suddenly ask me to do something else, it's very much like, excuse me, it's so much harder for me to put in that time to learn that new skill, work with different people on a project that I don't normally do. There's a lot of really challenging factors that I just need to get over in order to be better at my job, whatever I am doing, versus reverting back to that video editing work. Yeah, that's great. I can do that quite easily. And that's wonderful that I've learned that skill. But when I keep going back to it and taking time working on that work when I should be working on something else that may be harder, but more important to the client or more highly prioritized, it just gives me a lot of perspective that why am I doing this and how can I really fix it moving forward. I really do kind of have to become a different person than who I was before. And it might sound dramatic, but for me as a freelancer, my business is my life. I spend the very much majority of my life working on my business. So when positions evolve with clients, it is kind of challenging because there's suddenly you're out of that safety net of what you were doing before. And now you are in kind of this survival mode of what do I really need to do? What do I have to learn in order to do? What do I have to improve upon? Suddenly I'm not so good at this. Suddenly I'm not getting all the praise for this task. Am I going to lose my job because I'm not doing as good at it as I was doing at video editing? It kind of is scary. And then the last thing that I think that kind of ties all of this in together in terms of my own brain, this whole little thinking cycle that I tend to get into is, okay, yes, this is hard and it's scary. And that is so important. First of all, in being a person that runs your own business, you're self-employed, it's really important to always be growing new skills and learning new things, because if you're not constantly evolving with the times, with the trends, with the industry, then you are going to fall behind extremely quickly. I am so grateful that I am having opportunities like this fall into my lap to continue to grow with clients, because your girl gotta get paid. Here comes the money. But along with that, I've thought about it in the way of, do I want to be 60 plus years old, 70 or 80 with the way I'm saving money? Do I want to be old and still doing the same job? Because in theory, I could be. It's kind of weird to imagine that, but I could, in theory, be 60 plus years old, still doing the same work at the same skill level that I am now. And of course, that is so ridiculous to think about, but it's okay, well then what's gonna need to happen in order for you to get to this point of doing something else other than what you're doing now, not being an old person sitting at your laptop video editing. And so things like that are what kind of get me down off of this cliff of being super stressed about my new situation and help me sleep at night. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. If you are in a similar position with your business, if you have gone through this before, this kind of mentality of growing with clients and maybe evolving in position, and maybe you want to evolve with them, but then also it's kind of scary. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this issue below. Also, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you could like this video, that would mean so much to me as well. Thank you to Logan, my editor. Again, I am Colleen, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Have the best one.